We got a great show on deck for you today. Great show. Got to react to a Steelers contract extension that just happened. TJ Watt contract update. And then at the end, we'll talk about whether or not this Steelers roster is in a better spot than where we were in the 2024 season, because we got a couple Steelers insiders that have different takes on the situation, and I will let you know which one's right. But first, let's start off with this contract extension. Kind of came out of nowhere. No one was expecting it to happen, but it's very deserving. Very deserving. DeShon Elliott signed a 2-year extension for $12.5 million, which also includes $9.21 million in guarantees. So depending on how you look at this, it's like a 2-year extension. So like he was already under contract for this year. It's basically like he now has a 3-year deal. So include this 2025 season. He's also on the books for 2026 and 2027. So that 12.5 million, let me try to make sense of all this. That 12.5 million over 2 years is like tacked on to this year, which makes the 3-year deal worth 15.5 million in total. So if you want to look at it on a per year average basis, it's like a little bit over 5 million per year that he's getting. He's getting that 9.21 million in guarantees, which is nice. So the guarantees aren't the full portion of the contract, but that's a nice little upgrade for DeShon Elliott, because if you look at his initial deal that he signed last year, it was only 2 years, 6 million, so 3 per year. So now he's getting a little bit of an upgrade on a per year basis, but then gets that 9.21 million in guarantees, which he's going to be getting up front. Like, that is locked in. Not half bad and very deserving. Like I said, with DeShon Elliott, I mean, that deal that I just talked about, he signed last offseason, 2 for $6. That was a steal right off the jump. As soon as we signed him, I'm like, man, there's a couple other safeties that I wouldn't mind that are out there, like a Justin Simmons or a Cameron Curl. But DeShon Elliott, you look at his track record, you look at what he's done in the league up to this point, been a starter for multiple teams, Ravens, Lions, and also the Dolphins. We're getting a starting caliber safety for only $3 million per year. Like, that's a steal right there. And off the jump, it seemed like we knew he was going to fit this Steelers culture very, very well. So he goes from that to now getting the deal that he's gotten. I would say it's deserving, and I would still say this new contract that he's got is a steal for the Steelers. Like, this is still a very team-friendly deal, because DeShon Elliott, his first year in the black and gold, not only outplayed that 2-year, $6 million deal that he signed, but like was one of our best players on defense, was one of our best players on the team, was probably, you could argue, let me just think off the top of my head, was the best newcomer. Now, there were guys that made more headlines, like Patrick Queen. We traded Deontay Johnson, got a Dante Jackson in here. Who else? I'm just trying to think of additions for the team last year. Obviously, signing Russell Wilson, trading for Justin Fields. All those deals were talked about more, from Queen, Dante Jackson, Russ, Justin Fields, Cordarrelle Patterson. DeShon Elliott was, I think, the best free agent acquisition, or just the best acquisition that wasn't draft related last offseason. I think that's very fair to say. And maybe even if you want to include the draft, he was just flat outright the best newcomer. Yeah, I mean, he was awesome for us last year. Over 100 tackles. Like, he was a great run defender. I mean, the one stat that Alex Kozora pulled up on Twitter, this is insane. Per Pro Football Reference, 53 players had 100-plus tackles last year. DeShon Elliott's missed tackle rate was just 2.7%, which was the best/lowest of those 53. 53 players, 100-plus tackles. So DeShon Elliott was one of those 53. And his missed tackle rate, just 2.7%. Like, think of the caliber of players and the positions that are getting the 100+ tackles. It's not just safeties. I mean, these are linebackers. Like that's what those guys are paid majority to do, is get the tackles, rack up the tackles for the defense. Not as much safeties. Now, safeties will put up those type of numbers, as we've seen with DeShon Elliott. I think Minka had a couple seasons with 100+ tackles too. Terrell Edmonds back in the day. Like, it happens, but that's mainly for linebackers to be getting those 100+ tackles. But if you're a safety, it's like you're doing good work. You're definitely showing a form of physicality there. But for him to have the lowest missed tackle rate out of all those guys playing the positions, not only the safeties, but the linebackers, the dudes that are getting paid to make tackles at a high clip, at a successful clip. Like, safeties, they're versatile. They're Swiss Army knife type of players on defense. You got to ask them to be in coverage. You got to ask them to make tackles, to be the last line of defense. Like, they're doing a lot of different things. Yes, tackling is part of it, but to have that missed tackle rate at 2.7%, that says something. That says DeShon Elliott was balling out. The highest or the best missed tackle rate amongst all safeties, all guys in the secondary, but also like linebackers, dudes that, that's their main job. That's their main thing that they got to accomplish out there. So shout out to DeShon Elliott for that statistic right there, and Alex Azor for also bringing that to our attention after this Elliott signing took place. He also wrote something for Steelers Depot too regarding this Elliott extension. I thought it hit home. I thought he made a great point about this Elliott situation and us giving him this deal. And that is, the Steelers need to make more signings like this, like a DeShon Elliott, where you sign him and then you also give them the contract extension. Like, they become a part of the Steelers culture. They become a Steelers staple. They become more known for being a Steeler than where they were in their previous stops. And we haven't had that happen enough recently, unfortunately. Like, off the top of my head, the last guy that we could say that for, where the dude was playing for multiple teams or was a part of other organizations in his first few years in the league, but then signs with the Steelers as a free agent acquisition and then becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler for the long term and becomes part of the culture, becomes a leader here. And that is, I mean, I guess kind of coincidentally, same dude that wore DeShon Elliott's number 25, Ryan Clark. Like, that's the last guy I could think of like that. Like, we've made good signings since then. I mean, in recent years too, we've made some decent signings, but it's either they're like one and done, or they're more like short-term fixes, or they're just flat out disappointments. And let me run through the list of players that I wrote down here over the last like 2 or 3 years. And let me know if I'm wrong, because Ryan Clark's a while back. Like, we signed him, in like 07 and 08, and then he was here for a good like 5, 6, 7 years into like, 2014, 2015 range. If there's a signing I'm missing from that point when Ryan Clark ended his Steelers career up to this point, like, let me know. But I'm just trying to go off of over the last like 2 or 3 years. Like, Dante Jackson, I get he wasn't a free agent signing, but we traded Deontay Johnson for him. One and done. I mean, it was solid for us last year, but just one and done. Isn't a Steeler staple for us for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Pat P, a little bit of a disappointment. Allen Robinson, Ebron, Mike Williams, we just traded for him in the middle of not off season, but in the middle of last regular season at the trade deadline. Van Jefferson, Marcus Golden. I like the Marcus Golden signing. It was a good signing. It was just a 1-year deal though, and we didn't revisit anything with him. We tried, but then he like retired after re-signing. I think it was last offseason. He retired a week into it. Malik Reed, Cole Holcomb. I think that was a good signing when he was on the field. Really good for us, and we'll see if he's got some juice left in the tank this upcoming season. But injuries derailed what he could become as a Steeler thus far. Elandon Roberts, awesome signing, right? But he was only here for 2 years. Quan Alexander, he got hurt. One and done. Miles Jack, one and done outside of us signing him as a last-ditch effort at the end of that 2023 season because of all those linebacker injuries. I think he gave a valiant effort for those, 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks that he was here at the end of 2023. DeMonte Casey, he was a free agent signing, but was banged up pretty frequently and had an up and down tenure here. So, let me know if I'm missing anyone. But to have a guy that you sign as a free agent that wasn't drafted as a Steeler and then become a Steeler because we give him a contract extension and is just producing high-level play out there hasn't been too common for us. You know a name I am thinking of? Jericho. You remember Jericho Cotchery? We signed him. He was more known for being a New York Jet. I can't remember if he played for another team before signing here, but he was in the middle of his career, and we pick him up. He has a double-digit touchdown season out of nowhere. It was like a awesome third receiver for us. But I think he was only here for 2 years. Was it max 3 years? Like, he didn't finish his career here. I think he went on to play for the Panthers or something like that. But again, good signing, but he doesn't become like a Steeler, right? He doesn't become more known for being a Steeler than where he was previously. And DeShon Elliott, I think, has a chance to do that here. I mean, with this 3-year deal, he had an awesome year for us last year. If he could play out the rest of these 3 years, play out the rest of this contract, and continue to play at the high level that he was playing last year, it's like, yeah, that's what we're looking for out of free agent signings. I'm not going to knock some of these shorter-term deals because that's honestly what DeShon Elliott was. It's like you bring in a guy, it's low risk, potential high reward. I'm not going to knock that completely, but there is something to be said for bringing in a guy and it's a home run and they become part of the Steelers culture. And like Ryan Clark in the past, hopefully DeShon Elliott is able to do that. And we're trying too with some of these more recent pickups in the last year or two with a Patrick Queen, big name guy, known as a Baltimore Raven, drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. We're trying to see if he can become a Pittsburgh Steelers staple. DK Metcalf, obviously, just traded for him from the Seahawks. Gave him this 5-year deal, $150 million contract. Hopefully he could become more of a Steeler or known as more of a Steeler than a Seattle Seahawk. Might be tough to do because DK, was awesome with Seattle. Was there for, I think, 6 years. Patrick Queen, only with the Ravens for 4 years, so maybe a better chance with Patrick Queen. But DK's got the longer deal compared to Patrick Queen. And obviously, DeShon Elliott, we're taking a crack at him hopefully being a long-term solution for this defense and being one of our leaders here. But, man, he got off to a great start, not only by his play last season, but as soon as he signed here, it was feeling like this was going to be a home run signing. Because remember the type of stuff that he was saying in his introductory press conference? It was like he gets it. And I pulled up some of these quotes because I actually did a little bit of, after we signed DeShon Elliott, I did a little bit of digging back into when we initially picked him up last offseason and just what the reactions were, not only from me, but just from Steeler Nation, what he was saying. And this was some of his quotes. He was asked, what was the Steelers' pitch towards you? Why did you ultimately want to sign here? And remember, he points to the Steelers logo. He says, that logo, this is championship football. This is the culture. This is real smash mouth, real gritty, cold weather game type of football. Why else wouldn't you want to play here? This is growing up watching Troy Polamalu play, the Steel Curtain. This is real football. He says, I'm excited to be here. And then in reference to him being a physical defensive back. So if you're scared of being physical, get off the field. They're trying to turn football into basketball on grass. We're not going to have that around here. Awesome quotes. Yeah, that was a couple of days after he signed here last offseason. And you're just like, he gets it. I think this guy has a chance to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But then he backed it up with this play too. It's one thing to say this stuff. And, when you're in the offseason and not much is going on from a football standpoint, you eat those quotes up. You're loving it, right? But then it's like those quotes are going to fall on deaf ears. Those quotes are going to mean nothing if you're stinking up the joint when Sundays come around and the regular season comes around. But DeShon Elliott backed it up. 100-plus tackles in 15 games last year. If he would have played the full slate, he maybe could have had $110, $120 tackles, which again is impressive for a safety. And then you go back to his missed tackle rate. It's like, this dude balled out. This dude was playing at a borderline Pro Bowl level for the majority of last year. And we got him on the initial contract for 2 years, $6 million for only he did all that on only $3 million last year. So he's deserving of this contract extension. He's deserving of this pay bump, this $9.21 million in guarantees. But then if you just look at how the contract's structured and on a per year basis, it's like a little bit over $5 million, like another great deal for the Steelers and Omar Khan. As I've said about Omar Khan and his contracts, like he doesn't make a bad deal for the Steelers. This is still a very team-friendly deal. And it's all going to depend on how the guarantees are situated. If it's more front-loaded, then honestly, like the Steelers are going to have an out after maybe this 2025 season or 2026 season. It's not maybe, it's not going to have to be like this whole thing that we're taking on dead cap at an exorbitant amount when like 2027 rolls around. So, man, and that's the other thing too with Elliott. He's still ascending. I think he just turned 28. Like he just turned 28 right now. So he'll be 28 for 2025, 29 for 2026. And in 2027, he'll be 30, still in his prime. Great pickup for the Steelers and great decision to get ahead of it and give him this contract extension to keep DeShon Elliott happy. Because if he were to have played on the deal that he initially signed, that would have been, honestly, that would have been highway robbery for the Steelers, for DeShon Elliott to play this upcoming season as the Steelers starting safety for just $3 million after what he put on display last year. I'm glad that both sides got ahead of this, came to an agreement before training camp, because this is something that wasn't even talked about, that maybe should have been talked about throughout the course of this offseason, and like contracts that need to be situated. I know TJ Watt's the one making the headlines, and rightfully so, but DeShon Elliott, when, looking back at it here, glad that the deal got done, but he would have had justification for sitting out of training camp or having a holdout or a hold in or trying to get some sort of extension. I mean, we've had a player or two over the last like 3 or 4 years that has done that route, whether it's Cam Hayward, Deontay Johnson, Minkah Fitzpatrick, TJ Watt, and obviously TJ Watt again. DeShon Elliott would have had justification for going that route, but we didn't hear anything from DeShon Elliott. We didn't hear anything from insiders that Elliott was unhappy with his contract. This is how you do business right here. Shout out to DeShon Elliott. Shout out to the Steelers for getting this thing done. And I'm glad we have DeShon Elliott, because he is, from what it feels like, just based off the short sample size of 1 year that he's been here, he's the epitome of what a Pittsburgh Steeler should be. And I feel like this contract only empowers him more to take that on and become a leader and pass on that Steeler culture and that Steeler mentality to some of these young guys that have gotten drafted recently. And what's funny too is, as I said, I was looking back on just like what the vibes were when we initially drafted Elliott. I look back on my reaction and I was like, man, Justin Simmons was still out there. Cameron Curl was still out there at the time. We were talking about adding another safety. I was like, why? I wish we would have grabbed one of those guys, Simmons or Curl. Instead, we got DeShon Elliott. And I was like, honestly, though, you look at what he's done in the league thus far and him being a starter for 3 different teams and playing at a pretty high level, this is objectively still a good deal for us. I just maybe wish we got a little bit more pop, a little bit bigger of a name in a Justin Simmons or a Cameron Curl. But now, you know what? I'm happy I didn't get what I wished for. I'm happy we got DeShon Elliott, because he had a better season than both Justin Simmons and Cameron Curl last year. PFF graded him higher than both those safeties. And yeah, we paid him a lesser contract at the time. Now we gave him the extension. So I think his contract, when you look at between him and Cameron Curl, I think it's in the same range. Justin Simmons, he's still out there in free agency for this offseason. I don't know what he's going to end up doing, but DeShon Elliott was better than both of those guys that I wish we would have signed. So shout out to Omar Khan, shout out to the Steelers for making this DeShon Elliott move, and then also taking care of business here and making sure he's here for the foreseeable future. One more thing, though, before I move on to, I don't even know. Actually, am I even going to get to a next topic here? I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll get to the TJ Watt contract stuff real briefly at the very end because, yeah, there's not too much to go over with that. One more thing with DeShon Elliott, though, before we get to TJ Watt. How about this in terms of impact? In the 15 games that he played last year, the Steelers defense gave up 17.4 points per game and 88 rushing yards per game. In the 2 games Elliott wasn't out there, we go up 30.5 points per game and 175.5 rushing yards per game. Pretty drastic difference there. It's a 13-point difference with and without DeShon Elliott in the negative way, in the bad way, and like about a 90, almost a 90-yard, a negative rush yard difference when Elliott's not out there for the Steelers defense. Like, that's bad. Good for Elliott, but bad for the Steelers defense. So again, another example of why this Elliott pickup has been a godsend. Last thing though, let's get to this TJ Watt stuff. We'll talk about the Steelers roster tomorrow and whether or not we're in a better spot than where we were last year. Because like I said, there's a couple Steelers insiders that have differing opinions on that. And I am going to put the gauntlet down and let you know what the real take on the situation is. But in terms of TJ Watt, here's an update from Adam Schefter. This is what he thinks he's going to be getting. This is what he thinks TJ's contract range is going to be. Because we know Myles Garrett got $40 million. Max Crosby got 35 and a half, I believe, per year. He's saying Trey Hendrickson, the bottom paragraph on the screen here, Trey Hendrickson and Watt, I think they'll be in the Max Crosby Garrett range. So again, 35 and a half for Crosby, Garrett, the upper end of that, $40 million. Somewhere in there. And then he goes, Micah Parsons, though, I'd expect to become the highest paid defensive player in the NFL history. That's the deal that I expect to trump the other deal. So he expects Micah Parsons to get higher than Myles Garrett, but TJ Watt to be between Max Crosby and Myles Garrett, and also Trey Hendrickson to be in that range. Ian Rappaport kind of said the same thing, too. I don't have the graphic to show you guys on the screen, but this is what Ian Rappaport said on one of the NFL Network shows a couple of days ago. If they possibly can, talking about the Steelers, they're going to try and not make him the highest paid edge rusher in the NFL. Because we're all waiting on some of these other massive deals like a Trey Hendrickson, also Michael Parsons. It's a little tricky to see where TJ Watt belongs, but he doesn't expect the Steelers to try to make him the highest paid. So that goes hand in hand with what Schefter's saying as well. And I would say rightfully so. If you can get TJ Watt for less than $40 million, then make it happen. Because I don't think paying TJ Watt $40+ million is doing you any favors in terms of roster construction. Now, I'll say this. For this year, paying TJ Watt, say $41 million or $41 million, that's not hurting the Steelers. It's not. Just for this season, because we can afford it. Aaron Rodgers on a cheap deal. We kind of already got our roster set in place. We got a ton of flexibility. We got restructures we can make. We can afford TJ Watt to be here for $40 million, for $41 million, whatever deal it takes to get above Myles Garrett. We can make that happen. And it's not going to be hurting us at all. It's not going to be hurting our roster construction for 2025 and making us less of a potential contender. If anything, TJ Watt being here makes us more of a contender. He's part of the solution. And that's another thing with all this. Remember, TJ Watt at the end of last season, whenever we got bounced out of the playoffs, there was that it was either the post-game interviews or it was like a day or two after, reporters asked TJ Watt about whether he wants to come back and stay a Pittsburgh Steeler. And he said he wants to be part of the solution. He works his ass off. He loves it in Pittsburgh. Like he views himself a Steeler for life. He wants to be part of the solution here. Doesn't want to run away from the troubles and the struggles that the organization and the team has been experiencing recently. Wants to be a part of the solution. So TJ Watt being on the roster, whether it's 40 million, whatever number it is for 2025, that's being a part of the solution. We can afford it. We can make it happen. But the only thing I question is in year 2 of this contract, year 3 of this contract, year 4 of this contract, if it is that $40 million, $40+ million, is that part of the solution for the Steelers? Paying an edge rusher who's in his 30s that amount of money, is that going to be a part of the solution, particularly in a league now that's so much more offensive based and offensive driven versus defense? That's all. It's fair to question. Now, if TJ Watt is still TJ Watt at 32, 33, he's putting up Depoy type of numbers and having that same type of impact that we were seeing from him in his prime, then sure, he'll definitely be a part of the solution. But it's fair to question. It's fair to wonder if TJ will age out like a fine wine like that, given how the end of last season was with him. And he was just not the same those last 6-7 weeks. And also the fact, too, we haven't won a playoff game with TJ Watt being here, no matter what we've been paying him, no matter how good he's been, no matter if he's put up Depoy type of seasons or he's injured for half the season, or if he's kind of a no-show for the last 6-7 weeks of the season like it was in 2024. No matter what version of TJ Watt we've gotten, we haven't been able to win a playoff game. So Steelers are in the right for trying to get that less than Myles Garrett, for sure. And TJ Watt would be in the right for trying to get more than Myles Garrett. But I think there's going to be some sort of happy medium here. I don't see TJ Watt as a guy that's going to be trying to break the bank and take the Steelers organization to the cleaners on this. I think he understands where he's at in this part of his career. Or I'd like to think, at least, he's in his 30s. If he's trying to win a ring, he's trying to win a ring with the Steelers. Taking a little bit of a pay cut may go a long way. If he takes $35 million instead of 41, 42 million, that enables us to sign, to have another player like a DeShon Elliott on this team. That enables us to get a quality guy on the offensive line potentially, like James Daniel. His contract was for $8 million a year. So, I think TJ Watt should have some self-awareness in this. It is going to have to involve him eating some of his ego a little bit, because I'm sure he's seeing that Myles Garrett contract. He's like, bro, he's getting that money. I've been better than Myles Garrett. I deserve a little bit more. But what's it about? What's your goals? Are you trying to be a part of the solution, help the Steelers win a championship while also get paid your proper value, your market value? Then it's going to have to be less than 40. It's just going to have to be. But that's what Schefter and Rappaport are saying. So something's going to get done. Both sides are going to hopefully get something done before training camp. I think both sides are motivated to get something done before training camp. It's going to happen. You heard Tomlin's response to the TJ Watt questions in minicamp. I don't think anyone's really worried. I don't. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be, I'm saying like 36 mil. 36 mil. That's my prediction right now. 3-6. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Again, we're going to be talking about the Steelers roster, comparing last year's roster to this year's, because there are some people that are like, we're kind of in the same spot. Or, if anything, we might even be worse off than where we were last year for certain reasons. Then there's other people that are saying, no, we're in a much better spot. This team is loaded. We're way better off than where we were in 2024. So I'll dissect that tomorrow, and maybe some other headlines that pop up in between now and then. But again, hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.